It is September 23rd, 2019, on Sound City Council. It's for people that are watching on cable TV night after night after night and get to watch this as Monday night. If you want to follow along with the agenda, I haven't done this in a while. If you go to onsound.ca and go to, I think it's Mayor and Council up along the top bar. Maybe it's City Hall in the top bar, and then to Mayor and Council, and then you can go to agendas, and there's a way to follow along in the agendas so you can see what we've read and what we're discussing as we're going. We're starting the meeting now. We did not have a closed session. So all the way down to number 4, calling for additional business. Anyone have any additional? Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Your Worship. I have 2 items tonight, one on a succession planning workshop and another on Footprints in Time, the new exhibit that will be opening at the Tom Thompson Art Gallery in September.
Good, thank you. Others that way? Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, everybody. I have 3 items tonight. The first is a dilapidated building resulting from a fire north of 10th Street on 2nd Ave. Number 2 is the election sign bylaw, and 3 is the climate change protest.
Good, thank you. Going that way, Councillor Kepke. There you are. Oh,
thank you, Your Worship. 2 items tonight. One is on a hate crime talk, and the other is on community music.
Good. And Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be talking about the Riverside reunion.
Okay, now I'll have 3. Oh, sorry, John, I didn't see your hand. You didn't put it up.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have some follow-up questions for the city manager with respect to a request that we made of the Police Services Board and the police chief about a month ago. Thank you.
Good. And I'll have 2 or 3 items of events going on that I've attended or are coming up. So any disclosure of pecuniary interest, number 5. No one else is seeing any or stating anything. I have a pecuniary interest at 12E and 12F in our agenda. It's with regard to my own business, which would put me in a pecuniary interest. And so at that point I'll leave, and Deputy Mayor O'Leary can take over the chair. We're down to 6A, confirmation of minutes.
Thanks, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gregg, that the minutes of the regular council meeting on September 9th, 2019 as printed be adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 7, motion.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Merton, that City Council now move into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business.
All in favor? That is carried. So we are now in Committee of the Whole. We're at number 8 on the agenda, and our first matter is a public meeting from Braemont with regard to Braemont subdivision. So first of all, I will declare that the public meeting is open. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representations in respect of the proposed draft plan of subdivision. All submission materials for this application are available on the city's website and at the Planning Division City Hall during regular business hours. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Owen Sound in respect of the proposed draft plan of subdivision before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval of the proposed draft plan of subdivision, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the City of Owen Sound to the local planning appeal tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Owen Sound in respect of the proposed draft plan of subdivision before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval of the proposed draft plan of subdivision, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So we're down to 3 in that part, so public meeting, go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, notice of this public meeting was circulated to the prescribed bodies, posted on the city's website, and published in the Sun-Times on August 30th. The comments that have been received were included in the agenda package. For those of you who missed signing the sign-in sheet on your way in for this public meeting, it is located on the table just inside the door. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the draft plan of subdivision process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to myself, the city clerk. And if you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound in respect of the proposed draft plan of subdivision, you must make a written request to the City of Owen Sound, care of the city clerk.
Good, thank you. So I believe next we have the presentation of our community planner, Ms. Amy Can. Welcome, we hope you can stay.
Thank you. I plan on staying for the whole public meeting.
We're teasing Amy, who snuck out without thinking the last meeting before we could catch her.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to get fired up here. You good? Technical difficulties. Okay. So thank you and good evening, members of council, staff, and members of the public. We're here this evening to hold a public meeting to gain input concerning a draft plan of subdivision application for the Braemont or Telfer Creek residential subdivision. The lands are located on the easterly limits of the city, adjacent to the hospital. The lands are currently vacant. They are sized approximately 13.56 hectares or 33 acres and are, as noted, currently vacant. They have 322 meters approximately of frontage on 8th Street East. So this ortho photo shows the topography of the site as it currently exists. And a zoom out here, we have an ortho photo showing the surrounding land uses, which include the hospital to the west, the rail trail to the east, the Red Hawk subdivision lands to the south, which are currently vacant, and our existing large format retail stores such as Winners, Walmart, and Home Depot located to the north. The site is located within Phase 1 of the Sydenham Heights planning area. The city's undertaking to extend the trunk sanitary sewer south along the rail trail and west along 8th Street East means that full servicing is available to these lands. The city adopted official plan amendment number 8 in 2018 to amend the city's 2006 official plan to properly delineate the hazard and open space blocks on the site. The amendment also defined the areas of the property that could accommodate low, medium, and medium-high density residential uses. So also in 2018, the city's zoning bylaw was amended through zoning bylaw amendment number 26. This amendment implemented the provisions of the new official plan designations. The subject lands are zoned open space, hazard lands, medium density or R4 residential, and general or R5 residential. Holding provisions applying to the land requires execution of subdivision and site plan agreements, and also requires that shadowing studies be provided to confirm that the increased heights are compatible with surrounding land uses. It merits note that the R5 zones will permit limited commercial uses on the ground floor of the proposed apartment dwellings on the medium-high apartment blocks. Medium-high density. So here we have the proposed draft plan of subdivision. It is a little hard to see, but I'll sort of tour you through it here. We have our medium-high apartment blocks. That does not work, sorry. So on the northwest portion of the plan, we have 3 blocks that will contain those medium-high density residential uses, so probably apartment blocks with the ground floor commercial. We have our 20th Avenue East extension moving up through the center of the lands, and then what we're calling a P-loop for the other street configurations. On the outside of the P-loop, we have predominantly single detached dwellings, and on the inside of the P-loop, we have our row dwellings and semi-detached dwellings. And then on the east portion of the plan here, we have our environmental blocks, some stormwater management blocks, and a linear parkland block. I hope that gives you a bit of a picture. Sorry, I can't sort of point it out there, but. So the purpose of the proposed draft plan of subdivision is to allow for the development of a residential subdivision. The effect of the proposed draft plan of subdivision is to facilitate the development of this residential subdivision, which contains approximately 330 dwelling units and a mix of housing forms, including, as discussed, single detached dwellings, so approximately 43 units there, semi-detached dwellings, approximately 20 units, 31 units of townhouse dwellings, approximately 230 units divided between 3 blocks of the apartment dwellings in those, again, in those medium high density residential blocks, and with commercial units on the ground floor, 2 stormwater management blocks, 2 parkland blocks, a hazard land block, and the construction of new internal streets and services. In terms of a complete application, the applicant has submitted a number of documents in support of the application, including planning justification report and the draft plan of subdivision, traffic impact study, functional servicing and stormwater management report and site servicing plan, geotechnical investigation, aeronautical impact assessment, considering the location of the helipad at the hospital, environmental impact study and arborist report in consideration of the natural hazard lands on site, phase 1 environmental assessment, archaeological assessment in consideration of the fact that these are greenfield development lands. The process so far, so on July 23rd, we received a complete application submission from the proponent. A letter of completeness went out in accordance with the Planning Act on August 16th. A notice of complete application and public meeting went out together on August 30th, notifying of this public meeting. A technical report was at council on September 9th for an introduction of the subject matter. The application is slated to go to the Accessibility Advisory Committee on September 30th for consideration. Final review and consideration of public comment is forthcoming in the form of a recommendation report to consider final comments to the applicant. Necessary revisions will be considered. Conditions of draft plan approval will be coming out of this review process, and as noted, a recommendation report is going to be coming forward to council and is anticipated in October 2019. And so with that, I will conclude, and I welcome any comments or questions you may have.
Council, questions? Go ahead, Councillor Kepke.
Thank you. I just wondered where 20th Avenue East lines up to the north. Where does it come out?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. It comes out right at the Michaels store, actually. So when you're traveling past the Michaels store, if you continued south, it would come through the Braemont lands and exit at 8th Street East.
And there's a stoplight there on 16th, correct? There's a light?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Tamming?
Thank you again, Ms. Can, for that brilliant presentation. Do you know when the shovel might go into the ground?
Go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship. That's an excellent question. We unfortunately don't know the answer to that question, but always hope that it's sooner rather than later. Our applicant does have a planning consultant in attendance who may better be able to answer that question.
Others? Okay, seeing no others, thank you very much for your presentation. I think next we have comments from the public. I think Ms. Spencer wants to, representing Braemont, wishes to present.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and members of the public. I'm going to try not to duplicate too much of the information that's already been provided, so bear with me, I'll try to keep it short for you. And we'll just move forward. Again, you obviously can identify where the subject lands on the property are. The surrounding land use is obviously the hospital, East Ridge, the Seasons facility, some mixed-use commercial developments such as Home Depot, Walmart, Canadian Tire in close proximity as well. So as you are aware, Official Plan Amendment Number 8 and Zoning Bylaw Amendment Number 26 have been previously approved by Council. So Schedule A, the land use plan to the city's official plan, has been amended by redesignating a portion of the lands, which have been identified as residential and open space, and to refine the hazard lands designation in consultation with the Conservation Authority. And again, in addition, because this is between the secondary plan, so Schedule A2 is also altered by amending the designation from residential low density and residential medium density to residential medium density and residential medium/high density and open space, and the hazard lands have been defined. Zoning Bylaw Amendment 26 simply implements the specific provisions that have been applied to the lands, which include the restrictions related to the limited amount of commercial space on the ground floor of those higher density units. In essence, as Amy aptly already explained to you, so there's 43 single detached dwelling units, 20 semi-detached dwelling units, 31 street townhome units, and 236 medium high-density residential units. So this plan of subdivision application is essentially implementing those housing types. The original application contemplated a unit yield of 338 units, which has since been reduced to 330. The reason for that was they had originally contemplated townhouse blocks in the shape of 7 in one block, and that's since been reduced. So they're looking for more streetscape and a better unit yield in the sense of quality versus quantity. So the number of townhouse dwelling units is essentially what has been reduced thus far. So you'll see on this plan, and I wish I could show you on the pointer, but the blocks that are coming along that extension have been reduced. So it's those blocks, specifically 54 through 60. I know it's really hard to see from here, but those blocks coming along there have been reduced from that seven unit to smaller units. This is our preliminary phasing plan, which gives you an idea of where development is going to start initially. The intent by the developer is to move forward as quickly as possible and as soon as they have the opportunity to do so. But you can see that phase 1 development is shown in kind of the peach-colored highlight on the screen. And then moving forward, the second phase would be the green area, moving in then to the blue and the purple as well. So again, as I explained previously, there's site-specific provisions. So those have been granted to allow a little bit more flexibility for those higher density units. We do understand there's the holding provision on those units to identify that there's no intrusion in terms of shadow studies, things of that nature. So I will leave it up to questions if there's anything that you need me to add. Thank you.
I think Councillor Tamming has a question for you. Go ahead, Councillor Tamming. I'm just guessing.
The development looks terrific. 2 questions. First of all, when do you expect to get a shovel in the ground?
Through your worship, the sooner the better is the intent of the client. Again, obviously, everything has to be approved and ducks in a row, but that it's not a project that's slated to sit idle.
My second question is, as you know, affordable housing is always an issue with municipalities. I don't know if you're prepared to speak to this at all. Has your company, or your client rather, given any thought to that, and what can we expect along those lines, if anything?
I can't answer that question through your worship immediately to say, but I can anticipate that there's consideration for those higher density units to be a mix of housing types, but I can't definitively answer that for you at this point. They're not at the detailed design stage.
Good, thank you. Anyone else with questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Now, are there any other members of the public that wish to speak to this? This is an opportunity to do so. I'm not seeing anyone moving to the microphone. Still not seeing any. So I'll declare that the public meeting is closed. And we can continue on then with our agenda. So at number 9, we have deputations and presentations. The first presentation is Sue Allison, one of our local artists. Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks very much for, I'm kind of nervous. Never done any of this before. This is a fantastic council room, I might add. It's beautiful in here. So, yes, I am Sue Allison. I am a local artist. I'm a painter. I paint many things out of oil, acrylic, and watercolor. And for over 40 years, I have been painting Owen Sound, Sauble, and surrounding area. My paintings are mostly recognizable to many people here in Owen Sound. They can spot my style anywhere. And back in the 80s, when I started working in all these mediums, I just did swamps and bogs. Then I got requests to do buildings. And so I finally listened to the customer and started painting local buildings, heritage buildings in particular. So I have painted numerous dwellings in this area over the years. And the main reason I'm here is that I have had so many positive comments through the years that the historical buildings should hang in the City Hall. And some have been sold to private collectors, but I do have a list of the ones still available. I welcome you, all of you, to attend the opening of my show in the Legacy Gallery at the Owen Sound Artists Co-op on the 6th of October. I'm sharing the space with the co-op. They are celebrating 25 years in existence in Owen Sound and in business. And the afternoon is going to be quite active, lots of stuff going on. It's going to be a gala occasion, lots of speakers, as well as me again. So please come out and enjoy the show and enjoy my paintings. I have given a list of the ones that are available to you people. There are other ones around, but one other thing I wanted to say was, over the years, these paintings, these pieces of artwork have gone all over the world and have put Owen Sound on the map. And I think I'm kind of proud of that, and I hear all kinds of comments from people these days that they have gone all over the place. So anyway, thank you. And
So, quick question. Your opening is on October 6th.
yes,
Is there a time period?
yes, I will be speaking at 3 o'clock and closes at 4. Before that, the co-op will be having presentations and dignitaries such as you, Ian, there, I believe. And I'm backtracking. Before that, Richard Thomas is, maybe you could elaborate on that. There are, whoops. Your group from the, what is it called? Are
Go
going
ahead,
to
Richard.
perform early.
Oh, right, I'm sorry. I was drawing a complete blank there. I was thinking about art. That is also the
Art.
day of the final Corkscrew City Beer Bus Tour, Your Worship. And we have made the Artist Co-op one of our stops this year, and we'll likely be there. In fact, we will be there at about the same time as this opening, or just prior to
That's
it.
correct.
Yeah.
So the whole place opens at 12 and closes at 4, so there's tons of stuff lots of activities going on. So thank you very much for letting me speak.
Next question, you won't be personally, your art will be hung for how long?
My art will be hung for a period of a month.
Okay,
It'll come down on the October the 31st.
so people can't get into the gallery on the 6th, there'll be lots of opportunities.
It will be hung on the 2nd. It's just that the gala opening will be on the Sunday.
Okay, great.
So
Any
you
other
can-
questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for that information.
Thank you very much.
So our next deputation is from Monica Brown with regard to the 75th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and fellow city councilors. I am here this evening not to look for your money, but to look for your support to join a Canada-wide opportunity to honor our Canadian soldiers, past and present. May 5th, 2020 will mark the 75th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands. My father, Leo Hack, was only 6 years old at the time, but it has made a lasting impression on him. His gratitude towards the 1.1 million Canadian soldiers that fought in the Second World War has remained with him his whole life. There is a Canada-wide mission to plant 1.1 million tulips to honor the same number of Canadian soldiers who went overseas during World War II. The proceeds from these special commemorative tulips will be going to the Royal Canadian Legion. This would be in keeping with past events, such as the 25th anniversary, where the Dutch community of Owen Sound presented 2,000 tulip bulbs to the city, as well as the 65th anniversary, where local students from Timothy Christian School gave flowers to local veterans. All of these 2,000 tulip bulbs would be donated by the Dutch community, and tonight I am asking for your support by designating the 2 flower beds in front of City Hall for these special flowers. What a wonderful opportunity this could be to honor our past and present Canadian soldiers and veterans. Thank you. I'm open to any questions or comments as well, too.
Maybe going to go to Ms. Coulter next to, I think you've been doing some work before you got here tonight, so.
A bit of due diligence, yes.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Monica, for the presentation and sharing the photos. I think Ms. Brown has been in touch with Adam Parsons, our manager of parks, and the city would be certainly pleased to host the tulip bulbs in the beds around City Hall, and staff would be happy to do that planting.
Ms. Bloomfield, do you need a motion, or that's going to be? I'm real confident that all of this council is absolutely going to support this. I, for one, have a father-in-law. We don't have a father-in-law anymore, but he was in Holland and in the Netherlands in the Second World War, and never talked about it, but had nightmares from the events. Growing up in Owen Sound, agrarian neighborhood, I cannot think of our society without so many Dutch people being here that would have come here after the Second World War. I'm convinced that we had more bands than we had mix in high school, etc. And I'm not exaggerating, but very strong Dutch community, very much a part of our community. Councillor Tamington, is a prime example of that. So yes, very much something that we will want to support.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So
I think it's great for the next generation to sort of see, the support and remember this as well, too.
Councillor Merton, I think. John again.
I would like to make that motion, and I would also ask if I could help plant. It would be an honor.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. That'll be part of the logistics that I guess we have to look into the future, but that would be wonderful.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor. Go ahead, Councillor Tammy.
If I could have an understanding from Ms. Coulter that they need to be planted, I understand, before the frost in order to bloom in May. I don't claim to be a specialist, even though I am Dutch in tulips. I do want to just say I saw Leo last week. He's at Chapman House. Monica was too modest to refer to that. It's a thing of beauty that Leo, who I know is watching, could know that this council took it seriously and moved with celerity on the issue. So I commend staff.
Thank you.
Is it possible to have anyone that's Dutch that doesn't know about planting tulips?
You got him here.
Good. Okay, so we have a motion. To any other comments? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. You've got some help there. Sure, if you want to be part of the presentation, come on up to the microphone. And, yeah.
Scott told me about this a few days ago.
I'm just going to get you to state your
Sorry,
name so it goes in the record.
Scott told me about this a few days ago, and I am very, very happy that our community is doing that. Her dad was 6 years old when the war ended. I was 7 years old when the war ended. And my whole life has been dedicated to peace. I got the Peace Medallion a few years ago from the YMCA, and I was thrilled. I just think teaching peace all the world around, you and me, every city, every town, one by one, in our work and in our play, we are teaching peace by what we do and what we say. And that was one of the little songs we sang at Unity House, and I think it's kind of drifted through the community. I love Owen Sound. I love Canada. I go to all the Legion things, and to my very last day, I will be thankful and grateful and live in gratitude to all the veterans who have making me stand here. I would have died otherwise. From hunger, cold, thirst, fear. If you have airplanes flying over your house every day, every night, and it's by 6 o'clock, everything has to be dark, and you don't know where your next meal is coming from, you learn gratitude.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's Annie Voss, Owen Sound, Dutch Owen Sound resident. So did I call the question? I've done that already? Yes. Thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
presentation.
On behalf of my father, Leo Hack, thank you very much, Council.
Great, thank you. Our third deputation is from Mr. Kafalis with regard to the Downtown River Precinct project.
Through your worship, I'm disappointed to say that we haven't reached our substantial completion for the Downtown River Precinct. With that being said, there was significant movement this past week with the almost 99% of the hard surfacing being completed. They put on the last lift of asphalt and opened up First Avenue East. We've seen the majority of the paving stones, just about all of them, being placed along the boulevard and within the courtyard area adjacent to the downtown, or to the pavilion. What remains to be done is some cuts and a few more bricks to be laid, and then that'll be completed. And we also had the steel finally showed up for the roof on Friday morning, and they started work on it today. So we will have meetings later this week to try and get a new schedule together when the pavilion will actually be completed. But in terms of our special event that will be held on the 28th, we'll be good to go because all the hard surfacing will be completed and the road will be open and eventually closed to hold our event.
Mr. Kafalis, the road is fully paved, painted, and open.
Correct.
That being First Avenue between east between 9th Street and 8th Street.
That is correct.
And I just did that backwards, but there's a reason. Is it now marked as one-way?
There are, the signs haven't gone up, but we do have a sign up saying that you're not, you can't make your way past the City Hall parking lot, the north entrance.
So in effect, it is one-way from 9th
Correct.
Street to 8th Street. Good. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor, or Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Worship. Dennis, just on my tour yesterday of the Downtown River Precinct, the line painting for the parking spots across from Tim Hortons are long enough for a boat and trailer or truck. Is that correct, the way they come out?
Well, they are actually installed based on the drawings, and the drawings are developed based on our high school math Pythagoras' theorem, and that's why they're about 9 meters long. They could be shorter. That's something we have to look into and actually blacken them out. I did go there Saturday morning because our main focus on late Friday afternoon was actually the spacing to make sure they're wide enough for vehicles, because as you came around the radius, they ended up being kind of flared in when they should have been flared out. So we made some corrections there, and then we did bring the question up, so why are they so long? And they said, well, that's what's on the drawing, so that's something we'll revisit as part of our final inspection of the work.
So the reason I brought it up was I think you and I had a conversation about the painting on 8th Street, and I think the left turn lane is supposed to be straight and left.
That is correct.
So am I seeing a trend here? Like, has anyone actually looked at all the drawings for the painting to make sure that it's not going to be one after another after another?
Well, there's two separate contracts when we look at the 3-year worship. That was actually done by the E.C. King. They tried to get a handle on doing the painting to make it similar to what it should be for the detour. However, Luby's will be going in there making any corrections by making that a straight and left-hand turn. So that'll be done within the next, I'm hoping sometime during this week.
Okay. And speaking of trends, the roofing started to go on today on the Market Building.
Correct.
I just happened to be here to watch the first sheet of roofing go up at 1:15 today, and I noticed when I got here at 6:30 tonight, there is still one sheet on the roof. So at this rate, do we have any idea when this building is going to be finished?
That's something we'll determine hopefully on Thursday when they provide us an updated schedule. I can't really comment on why it's taken them so long to get the steel or make more progress than the time they've had, but again, over the next few days, we'll have a better idea of how quickly they can get through that roofing.
Okay, and last question, just looking ahead, I think there's 20 overhead doors that are going on this building, 18 maybe?
Close, yes, 18.
With the track record of this contractor so far, has anyone checked to see if the doors are even ordered? Is there siding ordered? Is anyone following up? Is there any information at all?
We know that we did receive the shop drawings for the doors, and they've been approved with a slight adjustment based on the color. That's part of this week's meeting, is to verify that the doors have been ordered. We've been told that the subcontractor to the subcontractor, the tradesman to the subcontractor is supposed to be on site tomorrow to start with the siding. So that'll be one verification. If not, we'll have a better idea on Thursday when we have our weekly meeting.
Right, thank you.
Oops. If no one else wishes to speak, seeing no hands up, that concludes that report. If we can go to 9D, which is Mr. Kafalis again with regard to 10th Street Bridge Replacement Project.
Through your worship, we've experienced a delay in the actual closing of 10th Street Bridge, or 10th Street itself. The contractor responsible to obtain permits from the Ministry of Transportation, again, they only received those permits or permission to move ahead with the entrance signage on last Thursday. The signs have to be up at least a week ahead of time, or for 7 full days before they can actually close the road. The contractor's working on putting up the signs today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. I'll be contacting them tomorrow to ensure that they're ready to go for Wednesday, that everything's up and unveiled, and then that will allow us to close the road or the bridge and the road on October 2nd. That's the projection. Again, I'll have a better idea tomorrow. They have been placing all the signs along the detour route. You can see them as you drive the route. They are covered over, and they'll be exposed once the detour's in place. We're also working on the timings, lining up the contractors and subcontractors to work on the timings for the various traffic lights throughout the community that form part of the tour, and they're working on that as well.
Councillor Merton.
Through your worship, Mr. Kapalis, I'm wondering if it is possible to develop, or to perhaps you already have created, a responsibility variance tracking sheet based on lessons learned as we've gone through the Riverfront Precinct Reno project. It would be valuable for me to know what's being delayed, who's responsible for it, what is the impact, who's paying for it, and what did it result in as far as responsibilities. The reason I ask for this is, in project management, things happen. We own what we own. As a council, when we make decisions, we own those decisions. Staff own the decisions for the operations. But I think it's helpful to clearly delineate, is it a contractor issue? Is it other issues, so that at the end of the day, when your summary report comes to us, hint, hint, we understand why things happened and who owns this. So it is like an impact analysis, but it's an ongoing trend, and it's presented for the public to see, for us to see. It's not blaming and shaming. It is accountability, and it's transparency. and I request that consideration be given to that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we can put something together, something very similar to that, to ensure that everything is tracked and that we are, with all the projects that occurred this summer, we've been transparent for each one of them, and we've given up the updates on every 2 weeks on each project to let council know exactly where we're at. And we've, worked with our staff to make sure we get the media releases out if there are delays. I mean, we haven't hidden anything from any of these projects. We've been extremely honest and upfront. But we can prepare a report like that, especially given the magnitude of this project. I mean, it is a big project. There is potential for delays given what we will be dealing with in terms of ground conditions, various aspects of the structural construction of the project, and as well as even a demolition of the project. So there will be many components associated with this bridge, and we can develop something similar to that, to what you're requesting.
Through your worship, I want to thank you for that, Dennis. The comment is not about transparency. It's about ensuring that the responsibility is tagged on to those individuals or groups who are responsible. There have been questions asked about the recent project. Who's responsible? And if the city is not, then I think in all fairness, that should be clear. If it's some other responsibility, and then at the end of the day, if we own it as a group, we own it. But then it's out there, and it's as we go along. So I thank you for that.
Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Councillor Merton, I couldn't agree more. We do own it. Staff is we own it. We own it when it goes well. We also own it when it doesn't go well. I will be attending every single meeting of the 10th Street River Project. I don't feel the least bit well about how things have gone to date, and I can assure you that will be conveyed to everyone at that meeting and at every meeting until the job is completed. There will be full reports to council on what hasn't gone well, and I will understand why it hasn't gone well and feel comfortable reporting back to you.
Councillor Thomas.
I guess my only comment on Councillor Merton's comments would be if we're requesting an action of city staff, I think that has to be done through motion, does it not? And, I appreciate the councillors need to know, but I'm not going to support a motion if it comes forward. I really don't believe that we are in the business of airing dirty laundry. We have professional staff here who manage the city on our behalf. We are not the managers of the city. We are a governance board. We are not a board of management. And I certainly am not going to support getting my fingers any deeper into the way our contracts operate or anything else, because quite simply put, it is not our role as councillors.
Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Worship. Sort of agree with Councillor Thomas. I think what happened here is, I can't speak for all the councillors, but there's a lot of complaints came in because there's a bit of a ho-hum comment in the paper about something like, early on we really didn't expect the bridge to close till the end of September anyways. Like it was, like this isn't a big deal. It is a big deal because it's an $8.7 million project. It's turning the city upside down for 14 months, and the bridge was supposed to close and it didn't. So I think, it brought on a lot of questions, and if someone had just stepped up and said, you know what, this is what happened, and we're taking ownership of it, then it would have been fine. But I think it would be helpful if council had just a list of target dates. When is the bridge closing? What is your target date? And I know they're never going to be exact, but like, when do you plan on taking the building down beside the bridge? When do you plan on having the bridge completely out? And just an estimated list of target dates so we have some kind of an idea.
Councillor Tamming.
I appreciate Councillor Thomas's concerns, but I'm going to support that motion. This is the most...
There is no motion just yet.
Well, there will be. This is the most disruptive infrastructure project in Owen Sound history. And if I go by the wisdom in my hockey dressing room on Sunday nights, this is something that the public does expect councillors to take direct control of, not to manage it, But there's nothing wrong with some transparency, and perhaps I suspect Mr. Cathalis would even welcome it. And if there are delays, and we should know that, if there's timetables that are missed, we should know that, and we should know why. And I have no objection, I don't think it interferes at all with our role simply as governors to ask that of Mr. Cathalis, and I'm sure he'd be willing to do so.
It will be a notice of motion, I think is the appropriate way. Is that what you're going to say, Madam
That
Clerk?
was, that was one of my comments, to ask if it would be a notice of motion. However, I do agree that it would be nice to have timelines. I don't know that I agree that we're the operational managers, and I think we need to keep our fingers out of that.
As I recall, go ahead, Councillor Gregg.
I was prepared to make a motion because I would support, through operations, somewhat of a schedule that does note progress and target completion dates and so forth. But just a couple questions, and I think it is worth noting as well, this monumental task of getting to the stage we're at right now. I mean, this is not just as simple as popping out a bridge here. We've had a summer of disruption, millions of dollars of work getting water lines rerouted and redundancy put in the system and interruption through 4 streets right off the top of my head. And I think we're somewhat operating on some 5th and 6th streets. So it's been just a substantial job getting to the point we're at right now. And I think it's easy to forget that. It was a huge undertaking that we did this past summer, and we've missed by a couple days. I've got a question actually last Friday. I went down 3rd Avenue East, past the post office. The parking meters are still, I believe, in place. There was parking on both sides of the street. That's not our detour intention. That's going to be 4 lanes, correct? So we have line painting that we hadn't got to yet. My questions are this week, we still have these small endeavors that we need to complete before we are actually ready to execute the detour. A prime example is right out here on 8th Street. Vehicles are parking on the south side of 8th Street. What is our plan on fulfilling those needs this week, and how are we going to communicate to the public that you can't park in front of the post office, and you can't park in front of Shorty's, or you can't park over here? It's unfortunate, but that's the detour. Right now, we're not ready yet. So how are we going to get there?
Mr. Cathalis, go ahead.
Thank you. Through your worship, the contractor's mandated to put up signs indicating that there's no parking. That's been clearly mentioned in several reports that we will be eliminating parking along sections of the detour route, and again, that's what they're working on right now, is putting up these signs. We'll be removing meters, because in the past we've noticed if we bag the meters, people are still somewhat confused of whether they can park there or not, even though they're bagged. So that was the idea of removing the meter heads and then putting up signs indicating with arrows that there's no parking along these sections of roads. And the contractors, Luby's, is responsible to do that, and they will be doing that. And again, they'll be painting the lines on the roadways that we resurfaced, both on 3rd, 9th, and making any corrections on 8th as well. And that'll all be done within the next, during this week, before the anticipated or projected date of the closure on October 2nd.
So it's one thing to get to that point. What are plans in terms of staff, individuals who are out there? And I don't want to say the word enforcing no parking, because we're not looking to penalize people as we're looking to really educate them here. But the problem is we had no meter heads out there for the last month on 8th Street, and once one car parks, because they're used to it, then there's a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and the 5th. How do we educate and avoid that occurring?
Well, for something like this, first of all, I mean, the signage will be up. And again, we can make sure we have media releases letting people know that there's no parking on these streets just prior to the bridge closure, or 10th Street closure.
So following up on that, I'm going to ask Councillor Merton, kind of as we move on, when we get to notices of motion at the end, if you want to try and draft something that will be noticed. Mr. Ritchie, I'm kind of shocked that I'm kind of the last guy standing from when we did the wastewater treatment plant not that long ago. But as I recall, we had some markers or deadlines as we went through that. I was going to say, I'm not sure they're written in cement, pardon the pun, but as I recall, there is certain things
We had
that-
some milestones through that.
milestones through that, so that's maybe the same thing we're talking about. But Councillor Merton can try and draft up something to read when we get down to wherever it is, number 18, I think, or 17. No, notice it's 20. So if we can move on, any other questions for Mr. Kafalis at this moment on 10th Street Bridge? Seeing none. Probably it's going to answer some of the questions that maybe just came up, perhaps, is Mr. Fisher.
Just waiting for my cue. There we go. Good evening. It's great to be here. And as Councillor Tamming alluded to, even in his hockey dressing room, lots of people are talking about the 10th Street Bridge and what is happening and what's coming. So at the very least, good, bad, or indifferent, that's a really good thing because people are aware. So it's nice to be here to share this presentation with you. We've shared some of this information on how we are working to promote the downtown at a recent DIA meeting, and I'm glad to be here tonight to share this information with Council. I didn't think I was that bad, actually. As it's been said, this is no doubt a very large project, maybe one of the most important infrastructure projects in recent memory in terms of impact to the public. When putting this plan together, there are many things to consider. We considered the public as far as road closures, detours, construction progress, promoting the downtown as a destination to them. Business owners, so details about the construction, when the project was slated to begin, parking for their owners and their employees. And then promotion. The city and DIA have a newly formed relationship this year, which is still somewhat in its infancy. But throughout that relationship, the goal has been to promote the downtown as a destination, and I believe we've done a pretty good job to that, of that to date. And then we're going to have a little bit of fun, because it's not, if I'm around for the next 10th Street Bridge project, something's either gone terribly right or terribly wrong. So there's been a large number of avenues used for pre-construction communication. Each one of these I'll dive into a bit further as we move along, but as far as newsletters, traditional media, radio ads, website, use of Aspedia, hotlines and Municipal 511, detour presentation to the DIA board, detour presentations to council, and then a separate presentation, as I mentioned, to the DIA on September 11th. So where we house all of our information is a dedicated website. So similar to the DRP, I'll call it, we developed a dedicated web page. There we house our frequently asked questions, detour maps, transit map, budget information, all the media releases we have done to date. And this is also where we'll house those video updates as well. I believe a lot of people found those video updates of the River Precinct project to be very useful as we went along. And while we maybe won't be down on ground level at the bridge during construction, we have secured the services of a videographer to do that same service throughout the bridge construction. So some of those frequently asked questions that are more timely, maybe why something is delayed, or maybe once they get the piles in, some information that's relevant to that particular period of time. Did I get that right when I said piles, Dennis? It's close enough. I moonlight as an engineer and a planner. So, additional resources. So there is Municipal 511, which is a call for road closures. That has been a very good tool the past 3 or 4 weeks as we've seen many roads through the downtown core and through the city closed due to construction. At some point, it will be nice to settle into a routine where it's just 10th Street we have to worry about, and then the hotline as well, so 376-1440, and then extension 1411 for bus route changes, and extension 1511 for those road closures. Just a few pieces of traditional media we've used. So we've worked with local media outlets to utilize some of the communication streams they offer. Dennis has been on Open Line numerous times just to talk about the upcoming bridge project and cross-reference with the River Precinct. Been on Grey County Life on Rogers TV, and then several online newspaper articles as well, and as well in the Sun-Times. So what we have done is try to incorporate promotion of the downtown in all our public-facing communication efforts and make the DIA very much a part of what we're doing on a daily basis. This is where we start to cross over into both the communication and the promotion. So leading up to it doesn't always maybe work out the way you initially planned, though. So leading up to the original closure date, the week of September 23rd, we were running a pretty heavy schedule on all local radio stations communicating the closure. Those ads have since been stopped due to the change in schedule. However, we'll start again on the 27th of September, leading into the closure of the bridge on October 2nd, and then 3 days past that as well. And I hope, do we have the volume on, Ethan? I will play the ad. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Paving until the 10th Street Bridge in Owen Sound is closed to traffic for reconstruction. All residents and visitors should begin using detour routes and plan their drive accordingly. Please leave yourself extra travel time to accommodate appointments of a time-sensitive nature. Parking in the city's downtown remains free and downtown businesses remain open. Thank you for your patience and for supporting local business during this vital project. For detour routes and information, visit owensound.ca/thebridge.
So it kind of missed at the start there, but it is a countdown where it says 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, and then, so as you're driving and starting to tune out the ads, at least that change in tone and ad does make a difference to get you to notice it. Another item, so one item we took out, there's a lot of moving parts to this project: detour information, transit, again, promotion, project details, parking. What we did on September 11th was dedicate the entire, we took out Aspadia, and which is basically a fancy word for newspaper cover. I hope you had a chance to see it. We still have some here as well. We dedicated the entire inside flap to information pertaining to the DIA, parking in the downtown core during the bridge construction, an ad notifying people that the downtown is still open for business, free parking, as well as I said, that parking map. This Aspadia was important because we wanted one physical piece that people may hang on to and use as a reference point throughout the construction. People are very visual, and I have seen my mother-in-law put it on her fridge. The Aspadia has really allowed us to get the most information out in a cost-effective manner. While the date on the front may have changed with respect to the closure, unfortunately, all of the information in there remains certainly remains relevant. I'm getting into a couple of the things that we're doing for the downtown and the city overall to promote them during this time. Those items were more promotion of the DIA in the city through some of our initial communication efforts. And now I'll get into some of the initial marketing and promotion efforts that you'll see over the course of the next several months. One thing I want to be very clear on as well is this is by no means a comprehensive list or timeline of the next 15 months of activities that we're going to be doing. We're going to look at this in 3 to 4 month segments as the project progresses along. The first being this fall, and the next being kind of the Christmas season as we creep into November and December, as we align our efforts with some of the initiatives we'll be carrying out on behalf of the DIA as well. So gateway signage. As you approach the city on highways 21, 26, 6, and 10, there will be detour signage branded with the 10th Street Bridge reconstruction logo, and as well as the 10th Street Bridge logo. So downtown merchants open to serve you, very plain but to the point. And then we do have some fun signage that we heard some feedback from the DIA board members that they would like some more creative signs displayed. They have certainly looked at some construction projects, I'm going to say, around the world and given us a little bit of direction. So we came up with a few creative signs that I'm going to say there may be a generational gap in some of these signs. When I showed them to Wayne, I'm not sure, I had a little explaining to do as to what some of these signs were, but when I showed them to the staff with kids and even my own kids, they seemed to get it in seconds. So a bit of a generational thing, but we worked to come up with some creative signage. We're going to work with the engineering department on placement for these signs near the construction sites, and hopefully we'll have a better idea in the coming days of where exactly they'll be placed. So this is a parody on the song Baby Shark. This is I Just Met You and This Is Crazy. what's that? Call Me Maybe, sorry. And then the last one, and I hope I never hear this song again. If you've ever spent any time at home with a child under the age of 10, this is play on the words to the song Old Town Road. It seems to be on repeat constantly for anybody with kids. So this is another one that we're going to put up as well. And it's just to try to alleviate some of that tension, be creative, and catch some eyes. With the River Precinct project, and it's certainly still very relevant, we improved the entrance signage at the main entrances to better navigate visitors downtown. We increased the signage size and added a farmer's market portion to the bottom as well. There is some further updating, I believe, required with these signs as we get into next year, but that is certainly a very good start. The billboard on Highway 6 between Chatsworth and Owen Sound is rented by the farmer's market and has been for many years. However, the graphics were dated and didn't display a clear message, and those graphics were updated as well. The farmer's market, certainly a big draw for visitors and residents on Saturdays. We have also utilized, I don't have a photo, our outdoor electronic message board at the rec center and our screens at the Bay Shore and Rec Center as well. Certainly lots of people visiting starting this time of year from out of town. In keeping with that gateway signage theme, the city has purchased 3 billboards at key locations surrounding the city to promote the downtown. These have been purchased for the entire construction period. Gray Road 18 approaching Springmount, so the bypass, so if people do decide to take that bypass, there will be a billboard there. Highway 26 just west of the airport, so before they have a chance to turn off and go around. And then Highway 6 and 10, 315 meters before the Rockford intersection as well. I should note that's available for just 11 of the 15 months that we have contracted out, and our partners at Georgian College were actually nice enough to move their board because they originally had it and understood how important this one might be to us. So just a couple samples of the creative. So Fuel Your Hunger, nice and bright, dining and entertainment right at lights. Fuel Your Lifestyle, fashion and decor straight ahead. And then Fuel Your Passion, museums and galleries straight ahead. We didn't think it was of any benefit to mention the construction. The whole point of those signs being there is to lure people downtown, not to say, come on down and have a look at our construction. So we really hope that these signs on these routes specifically will benefit. And if we can get people in through the downtown, through those routes, then the entire commercial sector in Owen Sound will benefit. Another neat thing we're doing, we've been able to secure a partnership with the Owen Sound Transportation Company. We've secured messaging on the roadside LED board out in Springmount for the duration of the bridge construction. So I always notice it if you're driving towards Shallow Lake or you're driving from Shallow Lake towards Owen Sound. They do have a big LED board there. We've purchased some advertising space on that to promote the city during the construction period. Along with that, we've also secured 2 large poster spaces on the Chi-Chi-Mon during the sailing season as well, and they're about 3.5 feet by 2 feet, so they're quite large, and we can change those anytime we want. So that's a really big market. That's once they get off that boat, there's only one way to go. So we're really hoping to capitalize on that crew as well. And the Owen Sound Transportation Company has never sold advertising previously for these spaces. Usually it's just been promoting different initiatives that are going on. So it will be nice to be kind of the guinea pig and to be able to take advantage of this. Looking at the immediate future, there are also numerous events to carry out that will focus on the downtown. So each of these events, as you know, would have their own unique marketing piece attached to it with its own unique budget. Looking at that list, we have an event per month happening, not to mention the 24 Days of Christmas, which will be reimagined this year as per the DIA board. So Riverside Reunion, Halloween Haunt, Moonlight Madness, Festive First Friday, and then their Christmas promotion as well. So outside of anything we're doing, in our everyday lives, I guess there's a lot going on as well. From a tourism aspect, this points, no pun intended, more to next summer, but these will be in very shortly, and we're going to work with our downtown businesses to get some of these out to them. When visitors come to the visitor center, especially during this construction period, they have one of a few options. They can turn around and leave the city and go through the bypass and kind of out and around, or we can bring them through the downtown. So what we have is a giveaway here. It actually will say you'll find your way back. Not we hope you'll find your way back. We couldn't fit all of that on it, and it probably sounds better anyway. But it's a compass, a light, and a keychain as well. And then a rack card accompanies that with the detour routes of the downtown and where all the parking is and a few of the destinations that they can go. So if you're from out of town and you're stopping in at the visitor center, just another little incentive to turn left and go through the downtown as opposed to turning right and heading out of town. Prior to our summer students departing, we are going to test the waters with promotion at the Katy Market, weather permitting. So even in the fall, the market remains a draw for many locals and visitors at the Katy Market, and this is a great way to interact with locals about bridge construction and promote the city. If all goes well logistically, summer students don't always like getting up at 4:30 in the morning, but we'll find a way around that. We plan to incorporate more involvement with the Katy Market into our 2020 work plan. Especially when you're out there on a Tuesday in the summer. They have a huge following from the Peninsula, Sauble Beach, Port Elgin area. It's quite a place to be, and it's just a great spot. Earlier in the year, our tourism department sponsored a Guelph Storm game. We have many tourists that visit Owen Sound from the Guelph and Waterloo region. It's only an hour and 45 minutes away, and they don't have as much water as we do here, so they really like to come up and visit. This was a great way to stand alone and engage with the base that is already somewhat familiar with Owen Sound. It was tremendously successful the first time on a number of fronts. We're doing a fall game as part of our 2019 commitment, and that's coming up in a few weeks, where we'll promote some of our winter attractions, the DIA Festival of Northern Lights, some of our cross-country ski trails and things of that sort. And again, of course, we'll use social media to interact with the customer base and communicate. This will be through our regular points and targeted campaigns, and I'll get into that just a little bit after. Here's just a sample of a few of the sponsored summer ads that we ran outside of the Owen Sound market. So we kind of picked a 40-mile radius of Owen Sound and then excluded Owen Sound and kind of blossomed out from there. So really, really neat. Escarpment Magazine. So we have a double-page spread in the fall issue featuring our art gallery walking tour, and this kind of ties into the next few things as well. Excuse me. Along with that is a full editorial. So the editors from Escarpment Magazine have made their way through the downtown, interviewed a lot of the people that own the art galleries, operate the art gallery stores, and that really ties in. So it's focusing on that growing art landscape in our downtown, which we heard a little bit about earlier today. So that was kind of perfect timing. Our winter guide. So we also have a new partner for our winter guide. RAMP will be producing approximately 10,000 copies, and the fun thing with them is they've had a lot of events in the downtown. They're very downtown focused, and they understand the importance the downtown has to us as well. So the downtown will be a big part of that guide. And then finally, you're all familiar, I think, with our moving forward videos that we've done. We have a new one to launch in conjunction with that Escarpment Magazine, the gallery walking tour, that whole theme. So I'll play it for you here, and then that's it, I promise.
Owen Sound is a destination for really all creative types. Artists, musicians, they're moving to this area and calling it home.
There's so much going on that really stimulates people's imaginations. There's something for everybody. There's so many new galleries popping up all the time. It's a very busy, busy town for all kinds of cultural events.
We never thought that we'd ever have an art gallery of our own. Like, could perhaps live your dream.
We'd like to make the gallery feel like a place to maybe hang out and feel at home.
One of the things that I love about Owen Sound is that it really is still like an authentic community. The artist per capita must be higher here than just about anywhere else.
How many places of this size, 3 hours from a major center, have its own symphony, have their own 4 productions a year of theater? When you have a community this size, people like to come together and enjoy something on stage, see their friends maybe in a production.
We have amazing talent in this town. We're so blessed to let everyone experience the talent and the local musicians that we have to offer.
Owen Sound is a cultural hub and has been a cultural hub for many, many, many years. There is always something going on in Owen Sound. So the gallery's got a wonderful collection of over 2,600 works by Tom Thompson and Group of 7, and people come from all over the world to Owen Sound to see his work. It doesn't really matter what type of visual art that you're interested in. there's somebody doing it.
You're never more than 20 feet away from the performer.
So many creative, wonderful people, very cozy and friendly.
And people like to get together to create art.
It is a magnet for people that want to show their work.
We're putting Canadian art on the map.
It's a discovery all the time.
So it's a lot of fun.
It's a good place to be.
David was here to sign autographs after his first film debut. I wondered why he was here, and then I played the video and realized it. No, thanks for your involvement, David, and the Tom Thompson Art Gallery is certainly a big part of that. So that's all I have as far as communication and promotional efforts for the city, for the downtown, communication efforts and how those all tie in. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. That's why we had to delay the bridge, so we could get this in before the bridge came out.
Right, go ahead, Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, Mayor Barry. I do have just one, and it's maybe a little late this year, but our tourism center, have we considered maybe some signage somewhat across from the police station or something to direct people that direction as they're coming in? A lot of people for that nature are probably coming in on Highway 6 and 10, so they're coming that direction. Have we done some consideration to maybe point people a little bit? Maybe not so much this fall as it's winding down, but for sure next spring.
Yeah, absolutely. There is the what I would consider regular. It blends in now because we're so used to seeing it. The blue signs on the pillars to the right, if you're on the right-hand side, you're driving, that say visitor center and things of that sort. But if you've driven in Owen Sound every day for the last 10 years, they probably do blend in. But yeah, as we approach next spring, certainly we can definitely look at something of that sort.
Others? Go ahead.
Was there not billboards as well?
You mentioned them.
Yeah, there was 3, and then the difference between this and the DIA presentation is we had the creative with them here, so you were able to see that.
Okay, that was a good presentation. You changed the mood in the council chambers.
Oh, good.
Everybody's upbeat now. I think we're all going to give Dennis a hug on the way out. Everything's going to be starting fresh tomorrow. Thanks.
Good.
So, Brent, I was told by a friend that lives in Oakville that they were going through massive construction, much the same. Apparently, Halton, Burlington, everyone's doing that. We're all doing it. And I was able to get a bit of information. Oakville mitigation strategy. This is a lot of our marketing so far is to advise people how to get through town and how to get downtown. And then more going forward is promoting downtown. So they had a strategy to support businesses during the construction. Liaison staff, well, I think that's you, right? Stakeholder committee at BIA involvement, which I think you've been to,
yeah,
DIA,
yeah.
And this one's kind of interesting. Respect critical sales periods through phasing. Well, we can't really phase the construction around the critical parts, but I can tell you from growing up in retail business that we made or lost our year in December or November and December that will be huge. Downtown's going to go through that basically twice in this 15 months, so it makes it really important that we make it as easy as possible for our downtown merchants to be able to survive. Good signage, marketing, communications, we've got that covered. Thinking through what they're talking about with liaison staff, et cetera, is that I hope that we can be flexible if we're getting reports back from the DIA merchants that something isn't working, something is working, that we're not so tied to the positions that we're into that we can be flexible, move things around depending on the time of the year. But we need to be conscious of that late fall season, the Christmas season, especially for retailers.
Yeah, and that's a fair comment, and through you, Your Worship, that's why one of the reasons we look at it is in kind of 3 to 4 month segments, right? We don't want to tie ourselves now to anything next spring, and when it comes to being that liaison as well, the engineering staff has been exceptional to go around and visit the businesses, pass back any information to our staff that is relevant, deliver those notices. So while it's nice to give you the presentation, all of this has been very much a collaborative effort as well.
Perfect.
Especially if you didn't like it, it's very collaborative.
And I think we've hit all those things that
Yeah.
other cities are hitting, which is all really good that we're on the same page. As we talk about this being the most important, biggest construction we've ever had, would be really debatable with the big dig that went all the way down Main Street 20-something years ago. But there's enough retailers around, Bernie Fishman I can think of, Taylor's, et cetera. There's enough
Yep.
retailers that have been around that have been through it before that hopefully have a memory and can give you feedback as we're going along about whether our promotion's working and not. I think it looks good, so thank you.
Thank you.
Public question period. Any member of the public wishes to ask a question? Seeing none. Correspondence received for which direction of council is required, and we do have a letter from Festival of Northern Lights. Festival of Northern Lights with regard to fireworks discharge on their opening of. They're saying November 16th. Did your report just say the 15th, Brent? Doesn't matter, whatever the date is, the 16th. Councillor Thomas.
I wonder if we could refer this request to staff for a report back before we make the decision?
So motion for a report on, then we can get the fire chiefs.
Yes,
Okay, all
please.
in favor? That is carried. That'll cover it. Santa Claus Parade, that was one thing you missed in your list.
I was thinking the DIA, that's right.
So we're down to 12A. I think Mr. Ritchie, with regard to a report for proposed projects for investing in Canada infrastructure programs.
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject of tonight's report, proposed projects for investing in Canada infrastructure program. The recommendation is that applications under the ICIP be submitted for the design and construction of collective storage facility at the Tom Thompson Art Gallery and for replacement and upgrades at the Harry Lumley Bayshore Community Centre. He's got me off my mark, Your Worship. The Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICIP, is a cost-shared funding program between the federal at 40%, provincial 33.33%, and municipal at 26.67% governments. Individual projects can receive funding up to $5 million, and approved projects must be completed by 2027. Senior city staff met to discuss whether to recommend to council applying for funding under this program, and if so, what projects to recommend. A number of projects were discussed, and the senior management team supports the two recommended in this report for ICIP funding application. Currently, the gallery has Canadian Cultural Properties Collection designation, but that status could be lost. The collection storage arrangements at the gallery are inadequate. There's not enough space. All of the space is below ground and susceptible to flood damage, and new HVAC units will be required to meet air quality standards for art collection storage. A modern storage facility and equipment would ensure the safekeeping of an irreplaceable asset and allow the gallery to function more effectively and efficiently. An application under ICIP would be for funding to design and build a collection storage facility at the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. Very preliminary costs for this project are $4 million, and I want to emphasize, Your Worship, that is very preliminary estimates. The Harry Lumley Bayshore Community Centre was built in 1983. Some of the critical components of the refrigeration and mechanical systems are approaching the end of their life cycle and are in the city's asset management plan for replacement. The Ontario Recreation Facilities Association, ORFA, has updated their recommended industry standards with respect to arena boards, ice shielding or the glass, and protective netting. The Bayshore in these areas does not meet the current ORFA standards. An application would include replacing the boards, ice shielding, and protective netting to meet the recommended ORFA standards, replacing the underfloor ice refrigeration piping, replacing the concrete arena floor, replacing and upgrading with energy-efficient refrigeration equipment, replacing and upgrading again with energy-efficient mechanical equipment, and installing energy-efficient dehumidification system. The benefits from this project are widespread. Both the participants and spectators would see noticeable improvements in the playing surface and safety conditions. Improving energy-efficient mechanical and refrigeration equipment should reduce operating costs and greenhouse gas emissions. Most of the elements in this plan are included in the city's asset management plan, and renewal with IC/IP funding would assist with the overall deficit in this plan. Again, Your Worship, very preliminary cost projections for this project are $1.6 million. If either or both of these grant applications was successful, the funds were available for up to 73.33% of the project. The community would have to fundraise to achieve and make the projects viable. A completion date of 2027 provides the time necessary for fundraising. And as Councillor Gregg was mentioning this evening, you know, quite frankly, we are aware of the turmoil the community has been over the last 18 months and quite frankly, probably in the next 15 months of road tie-ups, and they've been extremely patient. Part of our decision was the fact that these two projects would in fact not impact people getting around town as we move forward with them. I have certainly been involved in the art gallery for a few years now, and I do acknowledge we do need to improve that collection storage space. This is an opportunity to do most of it with non-city taxpayers' funds, and if the community, who I believe does strongly support the gallery steps forward, we might do this project again with a successful application with no city taxpayer funds. The Bay Shore is another attraction that brings thousands of people to town. People are investing in recreation facilities. This is another opportunity. We have partners at the Bay Shore who are interested in this works, and I think with a successful application there, we may be able to do all of that work with no city tax dollars as well. That's why we picked these two projects. We did look at a number. Thank you, Your Worship, and with that, I will stand by the report.
Great, thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Your Worship. As a season ticket holder for the attack and chair of the Tom Thompson Advisory Committee, I'd like to make the recommendation. I think both projects are excellent choices, especially the gallery, which has not had any significant work in 30 years now. And if we leave it much longer, we'll be facing the kind of thing we faced here at City Hall, 50 years of no work being done. So I would like to move that recommendation.
Thank you. Other discussion? Go ahead. Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, Mayor Boy. I do just have a couple questions just for my information, and maybe Councillor Thomas just asked or answered one, but I was thinking it didn't seem or strike me as that many years ago that an air conditioning and heating business was in there for a retrofit on the gallery. I was just wondering some clarification on when that was. I didn't think it was 30 years ago, that's for sure.
The councillor is correct, Your Worship. We did, and that was to the main building, but we did nothing in the storage facility. We need to, that's the part this will be dedicated towards, is the storage facility.
Okay. Also, one of my questions was, do you have to spend all the monies at once? Like, there's a lot of work that would be done at the Bay Shore. Can that be done in the period of time between seasons, or is this a bit of a, how do we get this done if there's timelines and constraints?
Through Your Worship, certainly not the Bay Shore expert, but in speaking with Kristen Schreider, our manager of property, some careful project planning, some coordination with our users will be required between the lacrosse season and the hockey season. There will be a need for accommodations, but we've seen what other communities have been able to do, and we will be able to do it, but there will be, just like the 10th Street Bridge, a small disruption, but not of an entire hockey season.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor Tammy.
I seem to be in the mood tonight for getting shovels in the ground through Your Worship. If it was approved, would we not stand a higher chance of approval if we try to get it done sooner? In other words, is this part of some infrastructure fund that they're trying to really get people moving on quickly? If you could speak to that.
Through Your Worship, I'm not sure they're trying to get people moving quickly when they leave you a completion date of 2027, and I applaud them for leaving us that kind of room. It gives us, quite frankly, if we are successful, time to go to the community and make sure that we do it properly, as opposed to rushing, get shovel ready, when quite frankly, none of us as small communities have projects sitting on the shelf shovel ready. We have to have too much investment. So we would move as quickly as we could, but it would be in concert with the supporters of both of these groups, the Bay Shore and the Art Gallery.
Just one other question. I know you said it's very preliminary, 4 million. I look at all the work that's being proposed for the Bay Shore for under 2. I find it incredibly hard to believe it cost anywhere near 4 million to get a proper storage for artwork. And again, this is not for display, this is purely for storage, correct? Can you assist us a bit where your information came from on that, through your worship?
We have had some work done a number of years ago. David is here specifically perhaps to help me again as my expert in the art world. But we have some plans, quite frankly, they're a little dated at this point, and some of these, the scan through that to get ready told us a good number would be something in the area of 4 million. Again, Your Worship, I'd rather say it's 4 million and come in at 3 than go the other way on you.
Good. Anyone else? Seeing none, Councillor Gregg, you'll remember about 20 years ago, the local ownership took over the attack. One side of the arena was torn off and put on, and everyone made it through somehow. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. At 12B, Ms. Coulter, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. The provincial government, as part of the More Homes, More Choice initiative, is reviewing the provincial policy statement. So as this council knows, the provincial policy statement is the provincial land use planning document that really guides our decision-making at the local level. This council is required to make planning decisions that are consistent with the provincial policy statement. There's a full summary of the proposed changes to the PPS in Schedule A to the report. The window for comments is open until October 21st, and I would encourage anyone watching at home, or if anyone on council has particular strong feelings about something, I would certainly encourage you to go on the EBR posting and make comments. A few highlights just for council. In terms of the proposed changes, they talk about preparing for climate change. The current policy talks about considering climate change, and we're recommended that they strengthen that by using words like assess, take steps to mitigate, and prevent. In terms of accessibility, the policy now talks about improving accessibility. Right now, the AODA says identify, prevent, and remove barriers, and we really would encourage the provincial government to use stronger and consistent wording similar to that which is found in the existing AODA and the regulations. In terms of settlement areas, and Owen Sound is a fully serviced primary settlement area. The draft policies proposes removing certain words around the growth and promotion of settlement areas, and we feel that that really weakens that policy to the detriment of places like Owen Sound. In terms of boundary adjustments, this is where the municipal boundary would be changing. Right now, boundaries can only be adjusted to municipalities with something called the comprehensive review that really allows everyone to ensure that the principles of good planning and orderly growth are being adhered to. And the proposed changes would propose to allow boundary adjustments outside of a comprehensive review, and staff certainly don't support that. In terms of planning for sewage and water services, and I don't think I need to remind this council the investment that this community has made in providing excellent sewage treatment as well as water treatment, and the importance of promoting the growth and development using that service. The proposed changes to the PPS do less to direct growth to those fully serviced settlement areas, and that change is not supported by staff. As well, there's other policy changes recommended to settlement areas in terms of private services that we don't support. The PPS talks about a requirement to prioritize and fast-track applications, and the proposed policy would apply to housing and job-related growth. So applications like you saw tonight, the Braemont development. The policy does undermine the time and attention required to address the often complex planning and engineering issues associated with a proposal, and assumes that municipal staff are unduly delaying applications. And I can certainly speak for our staff, and that's simply not the case, and we don't support that policy. The recommendation is, Your Worship, that you would receive this report, that we would ask that the report be posted on the EBR as the city's comment, and that we would share the report with the county as well as MPP Mr. Walker.
Great, thank you. Councillor Hamlin.
I'll move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Other discussion? Councillor Gregg?
Thanks, Rabbi. I just have a few questions. When I'm reading through this, I never get the question, why are they proposing these changes, answered. Like, there's no background for council to really rationalize why they're coming to these proposed policy changes. I wonder, to some of them, if they do make sense, but we're not given the context to, like, we support the staff's work on preparing the comments, but we don't have the background or the context as to what the comments are really built around. Like, why are these changes being proposed? I see one, I've got quite a few that I've highlighted. An example of one is, many people in this community know that seniors housing is more needed than other types of housing. It's really needed. Is this an example of the desired fast tracking from the province? Is this an example of what they're trying to achieve here with some of the changes? But we're not provided any light on why some of this would be. Go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, I'm certain that that's exactly what they're hoping. Unfortunately, affordable housing, high-end housing, if it's proposed for an area of sensitive land use, perhaps a natural environment area, the planning issues are no less or more complex. And certainly I think municipal staff across Ontario works hard to put processes in place to process that application as quickly as possible. And I know that municipal councils look to make decisions with the information that you have before you as in a timely fashion.
Okay. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. If I can jump here from 12B before I get to 12C, if I can go to 12H, which is the verbal report from Deputy Mayor O'Leary. You'll see why in just a minute, if everyone's okay with it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Janice Atwood-Pekoski addressed County Council on the proposed new Code of Conduct. She provided highlights on the rules within the code and further details on avoidance of conflicts in media communications. Councillors showed interest in further education on the new code, and Warden Hicks indicated he would make that happen, including all councillors on member municipalities. Grey County took a big step forward in modernizing fire communications technology. The enhanced fire communications system will proceed to the RFP phase. Staff will then bring back a report on costing and resourcing for Council's consideration. Our own Chief, Doug Barfoot, has played a big role in this and has been working on this for over 2 years. And with your permission, Your Worship, Chief Barfoot will give us a quick explanation of what this new model is. And we're just in tough for time. The Chief's had a fire this afternoon. He has to go back to the fire and just wants to get this out of the way.
Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. To give you an update, in the county at this time there are 9 fire departments, and they operate out of 13 stations altogether. Out of the 9 departments and 13 stations, 3 departments and 4 stations work on their own frequency, which means they have their own dedicated frequency to page their staff out and communicate with dispatch. That leaves 9 stations working, 9 stations in the county working off one individual frequency. Of those 9 stations, they run approximately 12 to 1,500 calls a year. The main concern here is that, again, you have 9 stations running 12 to 1,500 calls working off one frequency. That frequency is used to page the firefighters out and for the firefighters to communicate with dispatch. If the stars line up and you have a department out working on a fire scene and somebody's calling a mayday or calling for help, and dispatch is now toning out another station to have them respond to a medical call, that guy that's called for help has lost his message. So it's not a good situation. It is an old system,
and what we're doing here is modernizing that. The main concern is that paging frequency will be completely separate from the communication frequency. So anybody being paged out will be on that frequency alone. Any other department wanting to communicate with dispatch will have their own frequency to do that. So that is the number one priority, why we're moving forward with this. The added bonus to what we're going to get, if you've heard the terminology interoperability, and what that is leading to, again, is working with your neighbors. It is police working with fire, working with EMS. Moving into this new system, it will allow the ability for dispatch to get, should we be on a big situation, to hopefully link police, fire, and EMS so they can now talk together on the emergency scene. With that, it will open up the door for, should we get this system in place, Bruce County, should they wish to join, the door would be open for them to now join with Grey County. So you take a look at the Hanovers and the Walkertons, who work together so well, are in different counties, again, different mutual aid systems. Those boundaries are pretty well broken down. This system will even break them down even more. So again, we call for help, we come wherever you can get it from. The other added bonus to this is our dispatch system or service will now be able to treat all the different fire departments exactly the same. So what this is going to do, it's going to bring every department in the county, Grey County, up to a certain level. So the county is now going to determine this is the system that is in place. Again, some need new radios, some don't. We're going to bring us all up to a same working level. So now if a department wants to modify their radio system, this is what they need to modify it to. Right now, every department is doing their own thing. And again, we're all going, I wouldn't say in different directions, but this is going to bring the county together as a unity as far as communications, and it's going to put our dispatch right in the center of it, and it's just modernizing the whole system. And along with that, I really need to thank Kim Wingrove and Marlene at the county. They have done a tremendous amount of work. We approached them, as you were told, over 2.5 years ago. We spent a lot of time educating them. As soon as they understood the priority of what we were talking about, they jumped into this with both feet, and they've been a huge help.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Okay, thanks very much, Chief. And I promise I didn't know we were going to have a fire when I asked you to come and speak, but
neither did I.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just to finish my report, Dr. Ian Ara provided council with an update from the Board of Health, and this is well worth repeating. The Board of Health for the Gravers Health Unit signed an agreement in the recent contract negotiations with Ontario Public Service Employees Union Local 276. The union represents about 40 staff members, including health inspectors, dental hygienists, registered practical nurses, dietitians, tobacco enforcement and education officers, health promoters, maintenance custodians, parent support workers, and others. The union voted in favor of the agreement on August the 14th. The 18-month contract, retroactive to January 1st, 2019, provides for no salary increase, respecting the provincial public sector message of fiscal restraint and the reality of cost saving in public health. This is the first ever 0% salary increase agreement in public health units in Ontario. Dr. Ara went on to say this agreement is clear evidence of the buy-in of staff, and this achievement would not be possible without the strong foundation of communication via his managers and the staff's clear engagement and commitment. And I would also add that this agreement is also a reflection of the sound leadership we're getting from Dr. Ara as well. That's my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Deputy Mayor O'Leary? Seeing none, thank you. We can go back to 12C, which is a report from planner with regard to Planning Act Block 7. Ms. Coulter?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, this is a request. Council had recently approved an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment to allow and a plan of subdivision for 331 units by ANPET Realty for lands on the west side of 16th Avenue East. This report deals with Block 7, and if the clerk could just go to the map, we'll have Block 7 on the screen. Block 7 was described in the plan as being proposed for long-term care and retirement home. As part of the development of the detailed site plan for Block 7, it's become apparent that variances are required with respect to height as well as parking to facilitate the development. The Planning Act does not allow a minor variance within 2 years after a zoning bylaw amendment is approved without the acknowledgement of council that they would consider and receive the application. The purpose really is to protect the integrity of the original amendment, as often minor variances are heard by a separate body, in this case the Committee of Adjustment, and make sure that they're not really misused. Council agreeing to allow the application to move forward does not in any way endorse the application or pre-approve the application. We've met with the applicant. They understand the studies that need to be submitted. At that point, staff will determine if it can go the minor variance stream or if a rezoning would be required. But the application would be reviewed and considered either by council or by the Committee of Adjustment based on the merits of the application. So we would recommend that council pass a resolution allowing a Planning Act application on Block 7, and that would work through its normal process.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'll move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. We're down to 12D. From the clerks, I don't know which ones. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. On an annual basis, Council approves the Council and Committee meeting calendar for the following year. The calendar is modeled on Council generally meeting every other week and committees meeting at standard dates and times. The DIA Board and Committee of Adjustment have been added to the calendar to assist staff with scheduling and provide additional public notice. The Art Gallery Advisory Committee meeting dates are changed from Mondays to the first Tuesdays of every month, which addresses scheduling conflicts with Council meetings and is a better day for gallery staff. It is being proposed that if there are housekeeping changes to the calendar, it will be updated at the staff level and posted on the website, recirculated to council and committee members, and placed on the information package for the next council meeting. The resolution in the report is to approve the 2020 council and committee meeting calendar and direct staff to advise of any housekeeping changes throughout the year.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Merton.
I want to, first of all, state that I have found this calendar tremendously helpful, and I use it often. I appreciate the effort to making it work as well as it does. I wonder if there's also the ability, or if staff would consider creating a calendar or a reference tool that also indicates the appointments or the representation from City Council that's expected as part of our role. That would include things like Sauble Conservation, Police Board, Community Foundation, Owen Sound Nonprofit, Owen Sound Housing, and I'm sure I've missed more. When you look at the information in the policy, it gives a bit of a concept on the time commitment that council, the mayor and deputy mayor do as a whole group. But it's not truly reflective of the expectation of the role when you sit in this chair. I wonder if it's possible. I know that the meetings are not necessarily as structured, but even to indicate that the group meets 6 times a year, or in the case of county council, there is a regularity. Not sure about conservation. I think that as a reference tool, this is great, but there's another tool that would be helpful as well. And wondering how council feels about that.
The only concern I would have is that this is setting our agenda, and we wouldn't be able to set other people's agendas, wouldn't be able to set other people's timetables, and that's part of the reason why we do it this way. But That would be the difficulty, A, knowing when they are, and we have no authority over when they set. So that's kind of, we're setting our timetable here. Anything you want to add to that?
That was basically what I was going to say. It would be difficult for us to stay on, to understand when all the meetings are, if there's any changes with the meetings, they won't be required to let us know if there are changes. So we could try to do it. I just don't know how up to date it would stay, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. And also, I think it would be important to, if it was the wish of council, it would be important to have 2 separate calendars, because I think it would make that calendar too messy and hard to follow.
Thank you. Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree that it does certainly make the calendar messy and hard to follow. But I also agree that it's good for other members to know when those regularly scheduled board meetings are. And I must say, they certainly are structured. They're not just every 6 months. They're once a month. Some of them, you have a subcommittee of those that you have to attend if you're that member. So they're all there, and it's certainly a big time commitment, as I agree then.
Somebody want to move the recommendation? Deputy Mayor O'Leary?
So moved.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. We're down to 12E and F. I will vacate.
Item 12E, we have a report from the Deputy Clerk on a encroachment application for Graber Steamatic at 1395, 1397 3rd Avenue East. Ms. Bloomfield.
Thank you. Through you, Acting Chair. The city received an application for an encroachment agreement for property at 1395 to 1397 3rd Avenue East. The application is for 2 retaining walls, an access structure, and veranda stairs that encroach onto the 14th Street East road allowance. It's depicted here in this photo, and I'll just show the other one now. And the other encroachment is for a retaining wall and front steps that encroach onto 3rd Avenue East road allowance. The encroachments do not affect the integrity of the main building and meet the requirements of an agreement with a 6-month notice provision. The application was circulated to various city departments, and there were no objections to the application. The recommendation in the report is to direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an encroachment agreement with a 6-month notice provision with Graber Steamatic Inc., respecting the encroachment of structures on the road allowances of 14th Street East and 3rd Avenue East.
Thanks, Brianna. Councillor Thomas.
I'd move the recommendation.
Any discussion, questions? Call the question. All in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried. 12F is a lease agreement transfer for the Billy Bishop Regional Airport. Director of Public Works and Engineering, Mr. Capellas.
Through your chair, Hangar C8 is actually transferred once again. I think the last time was about 8 years ago. Don Kingsley has now sold it to Steve Meads. As such, we need to execute the necessary documents to be able to transfer the leases from one party to the other. And in this case, it's Steve Meads. The rate will be based on what was actually calculated from the initial cost. So the current rate is 36 cents a square foot. And that'll be indexed annually until such time as we reach 48 cents per square foot.
Thanks, Dennis. Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, your acting chair. I would be happy to move that recommendation.
Any other discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Thanks. So we're at 12G, Halloween haunt.
Through your worship, staff is seeking council's approval to close 2nd Avenue East from 7th Street to the Metro parking lot, or just south of the Metro parking lot. The road closure will be from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the Saturday, the Saturday just before Halloween. The event itself will be held from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The early start allows for staff to place barricades and helps restrict parking along the street, making it safer for the kids.
Motions? Go ahead, Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, Mayor Boy. I've got a few questions. It discusses some safety concerns last year. How many safety concerns were raised?
I think some of the main safety concerns with having the kids running across back and forth the street and having cars parked on the street. Some additional ones that we've identified this year, given that both 9th and 8th will be form part of the main detour routes for the bridge when it's out. We plan on putting more of, not your typical barricades, but more of the crowd control barricades to try and funnel the kids to the crosswalks, so that when we get to those intersections, at least, the kids will be one place and not just darting across the street on those busy streets. So those are the main things, and I think that's why we want to get the early start at 5 a.m. to make sure we can restrict how many cars are actually parked on the road and have it a little more open, a little safer to allow. I mean, even though there's no traffic on those sections of road, it's still nicer to have it wide open to be able to see the kids during that time.
I just wonder, it strikes me, parents should be with the kids. I'm not sure where it's reasonable that kids are just running around loose on the streets in Halloween costumes. That's bad judgment being exercised very clearly. What kind of communication was done with how the businesses feel about this before getting here tonight?
I think that'd be a better question for Brent to answer.
It was, excuse me, through the summer events wrap-up, it was a report that was taken to the DIA board, and it was a recommendation to the DIA board themselves through our summer events wrap-up report.
So did they go to businesses prior to getting this recommendation?
Sorry.
Through your worship, I believe Ms. Jenin would also have emailed the DIA members and requested feedback as well.
I just wish we had that feedback here. I mean, personally, it's with the bridge out and a summer full of disruption to some of the various businesses already who count on customers accessing them from out of town. I don't support the recommendation. There's more limited parking. A couple years ago, Deputy Mayor O'Leary himself commented driving around the block 3 times to access the Royal Bank for an empty parking space on 2nd Avenue. The first thing you have to do as a business is make it easy for your customers. And I think with the amount of disruption going on and the importance of Saturdays in terms of what they mean to, I mean, there's a business right north of us here who's had his back access made difficult for several months. And I have a hard time thinking that some of the business, it was a great, I mean, I'm a big supporter. It was great watching the kids around. But to close the street and have an effect on important sales for the businesses in the downtown, I think it's too important to close the street for them. So I'm not in favor of the road closure personally.
So there's not a motion on the table yet, but Councillor Kepke?
I will put a motion on the table to approve the recommendation.
There we go.
DIA Marketing Committee works with the city, and the DIA board works with the city. This is one of the events that they recognized that they wanted to keep because of its success and just creating some hype downtown. They've also created block captains for communication purposes on the DIA, within the DIA, so those block captains will be certainly talking about this event and that it's taking place. And I mean, give it another year to see how it works. Last year, the parking was on the street. This year, it's not on the street because of safety issues. So if the merchants had issues about parking, they would have stated it to the DIA board members, and they didn't. So other than that, just moving the recommendation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all. Go ahead.
I would ask for a recorded vote on this, Your Worship.
Go ahead, Ms. Bloomfield.
Councillor Gregg?
Opposed?
Councillor Hanley?
In favor.
Councillor Kepke?
In favor.
Councillor Merton,
In favor.
Councillor Tamming,
In favor.
Councillor Thomas,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor O'Leary,
In favor.
Mayor Body.
In favor?
The resolution is carried with 7 in favor and 1 opposed.
So that's carried. So we've gone through 12H, so we're down to the consent agenda. Number 13.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the consent agenda this evening is a report respecting an update on the County of Grey plan of subdivision in Kilsyth, a report respecting a road closure for the Riverside reunion, and then information of council package. A full listing is available at 13C.
Thank you. Hold on, let's have them moved.
Moved by myself, Your Worship, that City Council receives items 13A to 13C on the consent agenda dated September 23rd, 2019, and further that the recommendations contained in reports 13A and 13B be approved.
So they're now on the table. Councillor Gregg?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just wondering if item 13A could be voted on separately. I'd like to speak to that.
Ms. Bloomfield, we just do it separately. Okay, good. So we're voting on 13B and C then at this moment, I guess, if there's no further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. If we can go back to 13A. Basically, it's been moved, so it's
I
just
didn't
being
know if we
voted on.
wanted to, but this report here is and I've spoke about this during the past term, it's pretty clear my stance on what we should be involving ourselves into. By law, we are circulated within 1 kilometer of these development or severance items. The issue here is in Kilsyth, and I'm not in support of proceeding further, issuing these comments. As we look at next year, or as we're always looking forward in terms of how we save money, in terms of how we streamline our organization, our processes, I look at this as a great example where we are exercising staff resources, putting this report together, analyzing and assessing information and reports which are done by a planner who's hired by the developer, are looked at by the planners that work for the county. The Conservation Authority has a role in this. I've had it said before, yeah, but we prevented a subdivision north of Owen Sound. Did you prevent anything? Because there's a reason people live or decide to buy in Owen Sound or decide to live outside of Owen Sound, and it's not because they're forced to, because a subdivision is not allowed because of our comments. In terms of putting information together last term, I spoke to many different planners in different cities, and as the lead planner in the city of Guelph, who's one of the most progressive cities in the country, told me...
I'm going to get you maybe to focus on the report here, because
Sure.
now you're into a different motion that you'd like to bring in the future, I think, and we're talking about what's on the table here.
Sure. Just looking to provide context. It's not our business. Our business is our city, and in our our mission is where you want to live, not where you have to live. So I don't support us proceeding any further issuing these comments.
Further discussion? Seeing none. I thought it was moved all together but voted separately. So I'm going to go back to Councillor Thomas to move 13A again, just so we cover.
Yes, moved by myself, Your Worship, that City Council receives item 13A on the consent agenda and that the recommendation contained in report 13A be approved.
There we go. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And opposed? 2. That's carried. 14, committee reports from operations. 14A.
Thanks, everybody. Very light agenda in the September Operations Committee. We had our monthly airport report. There's very little change out there. The fuel sales are pretty much equal to last year. We've got jet fuel up and regular fuel sales down pretty much an equal level, so that report was received for information. We had a report come forward looking for necessary traffic bylaw revisions resulting from the River Precinct changes. They're all noted in an order. I will mention, or it's worth mentioning, there was one comment or question from a committee member on when the parking lot idea was created. And personally, I had an interest in this as well. I looked back to the original plans in the Gamsby Manro conceptual drawings. It was noted to be a market square, and now it's proposed to be a parking lot 6. So I would echo the comments of the individual during the committee meeting in terms of where this has came to. I'm not certain I support converting that into a parking lot without more information.
Okay, I'm going to go to Ms. Coulter, who wishes to speak to that, or can speak to that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Between the time that the Downtown River Precinct Plan was conceptualized in 2012 and through the environmental assessment process, some of the input that we had, we put in different themes. One of the themes was along the lines of the loss of parking. So right now, I shouldn't say right now, prior to the demolition and the construction happening, the area functioned very much as a parking area. In the plan, as you see it, the area features brick pavers. It was fun to watch it being used on Saturday morning in a way by farmers market and by the patrons. People are using the wider boulevard. They're enjoying their breakfast sandwiches out there. Always it was to be a market square. Hopefully over time, there's more activities and functions and things happening associated with the farmers market and in this area of the downtown. When those activities are happening, there will be bollards that will be put up and there would be no parking in that area. To leave that area vacant of parking, however, when there aren't activities happening, would be a reduction and a loss of parking that was already being a worry to some of the people looking at the plan. So it was always to be a market square. It doubles as a parking area. Hopefully it's used for more events than parking, but I think it's prudent to keep it as a parking area, at least in the interim.
Thanks, Ms. Golder. And thirdly, we had a report on the Blue Box wind-up changes as the province gets us closer to moving towards producer responsibility. The current Miller contract expires May of 23rd, which is 5 months into the transition period, as we move from Stewardship Ontario, who now administers the program. The next RFP for recycling services should require contingency details due to the transitioning period. I guess financially, potentially municipalities, or currently municipalities spend approximately $130 million on recycling programs. Potentially the city could realize approximately $290,000 a year in savings from the Blue Box recycling costs. This is a very interesting program. There's still a long way to go. We keep getting these periodic updates on where they're at, but it would be great to see it be successful, and $290,000 is a lot of money. So all three reports were received and the recommendations were approved within, so I ask Council's approval.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing no one, all in favor? That is carried. Next, 14B, minutes of Community Services Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. We received a wrap-up on the Home and Cottage Expo from our events facilitator. All of the vendor space sold out in early March, with 108 vendors occupying over 130 booths inside the Bayshore Community Center and outside in the south parking lot. The total number of visitors this year was 2,465, which is below the 10-year average of 2,948. The 2020 Expo was planned to take place on April 25th and 26th. Even with the lower number of paid admissions, the partnership share was higher than ever before by lowering expenses and seeking new sources of income. In 2019, each partner's share totaled $13,276, which is $313 of an increase from last year, with 672 less people attending. That's a direct reflection of the work we are getting from Brent Fisher and his staff, so we appreciate that. I should mention as well the other two partners, along with the City of Owen Sound, are the Grey Bruce Home Builders and Trades Association and the Knights of Columbus. Justin Tico presented a facade and structural improvement application submitted by JJC Properties, Inc. for a single facade grant and a double facade grant for their property located at 253 8th Street East. The proposal on the north facade is to reclad the ground floor stucco facade with fusion stone, install soffit and fascia inside the entrance alcove, install 3 new externally lit signs, and install 1 new glass apartment entrance door. The subject property is presently occupied by Midwives Grey Bruce and the Owen Sound Denture Clinic. Justin also presented Doors Open Owen Sound 2019 wrap-up. Visitor attendance for the 21 participating sites reached 4,061, which is a record high. This is notable given that 2019 was only on Saturday compared to other years that were held on both Saturday and Sundays. Plans for the 2020 event include, for the first time, a site cap of 15 sites on a first-come, first-served basis. This would provide a more reasonable number of sites for a one-day event. Based on the record attendance and the high number of sites participating, staff recommend making the one-day event the new standard for Doors Open Owen Sound. The event received 4 sponsorships this year from Barry's Construction, GM Demert Architect Inc., MHBC Planning, and Sprucedale Agrimart. July and August building department updates include construction value for July 2019 amounted to $4,839,820. This is an increase of 490% during the same month in 2018. The year-to-date construction value from January 1st to July 31st, 2019 amounted to $21,186,946, and this is an increase of 36% during the same period in 2018. Building permits collected in July of 2019 amounted to $52,400, which is an increase of 332% from the same month last year. And this is the one I like. As of the end of August 2019, the year-to-date construction value of $26,556,493 has already exceeded the construction value of the entire year of 2018. Those statistics are from our Chief Building Officer, Kevin Linthorne, so lots happening in the City of Owen Sound. Finally, Your Worship, Volunteer of the Year award this year went to Joan Hawksbridge, and I received a very nice letter from her that I'd like to share with Council. Dear Sir, please extend my thanks and surprise to the Mayor and members of City Council for your added appreciation. It was an unexpected pleasure to return from holidays and find an envelope containing gift certificates for the DIA as further recognition. It is a great honor to have received the City's Volunteer of the Year award. The award in itself, along with the acknowledgement for the Tom Thompson Art Gallery, are greatly appreciated. The extra tokens, the orchid, now with its second set of blooms, and the gift certificates have extended the reminder of the award to over 5 months. I will continue to enjoy this throughout the rest of 2019. Thank you again for the award and for the effort needed to continue this program on a yearly basis. Sincerely, Joan Hawksbridge. And with that, Your Worship, I'll move approval of those minutes.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Down to 15, matters postponed, and we have none. Matters for which motions were previously given, we have none. Discussion of additional business. I think Councillor Thomas, you're up first.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, Council and members of the public who may be watching this, a succession planning workshop that's coming up on October the 2nd at 7:30 in the morning at the Roxy Theatre. You know, when I got elected in 2014, I immediately became involved with the Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee, and one of the things that's been a recurring theme there, especially vis-à-vis the downtown core and what's going on down here is many people who have run long-term businesses don't know what to do when they're close to retirement with that business, don't know how to value the business, don't know how to look at selling the business. And in fact, we had a number of businesses close as a result of that, that perhaps could have been viable businesses for people from elsewhere looking to relocate into Owen Sound. So the focus of this workshop, which is being put on by Grey County, is exactly how you look at those issues, how you plan for your retirement, how you plan to look after selling your business, and in fact, how you value what your business is worth when you look at selling it. So I would highly encourage it to all downtown business owners, just in case they're thinking of making a change someday in the near future. I'm just kidding. Anyway, there we are. So that's at 7:30 is registration and breakfast at the Roxy, and 8 o'clock is a panel discussion, and you contact Grey County's Economic Development Department to get further information on tickets.
Thank you. You had another matter?
One more item, yes. Things have been very busy over at the Tom Thompson Art Gallery preparing for the fall series of shows, and one of the ones we're most excited about is called Footprints in Time, Painting Around Georgian Bay, for which we have two guest curators, Catherine Loughnane, who is the Senior Curator Emeritus of the Art Gallery of Ontario, and our local artist Louise Moore. They put together a wonderful landscape show of art from around Georgian Bay, and it actually, it will be up, I believe, September 25th, and the opening reception is on Friday, October the 4th from 7 till 8:30, and I'd like to extend my personal invitation to anyone within the sound of my voice to come out and enjoy the show and see what we're all about at the Tom Thompson Gallery. Thanks, Your Worship.
You covering the fundraiser?
Sorry, yes, one more thing, and there is in fact a gala fundraiser associated with the show, which will be taking place this Saturday night. I happen to know there are only 8 tickets left for the fundraiser, so if anyone's interested in having a great time and enjoying some good food and drink and good company and lots of good music, this Saturday night is the time, and they can contact the Art Gallery 376-1932 to get further information.
Tickets are available at the gallery.
That is correct, yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, Mayor Bai. Quick question for an update. I get asked this periodically on where the building is at that's north of 10th Street. It was the burned out building. It's interesting, Councillor Thomas just mentioned succession planning and so forth. The former Kornblums was in that building. The second floor has 2x4s that are crossed over it, and it's an eyesore for people going through. So I would presume it's an insurance company that holds it. But to what standard are they needing to be held to in regards to that building?
Mr. Ritchie?
Through you, Your Worship, certainly our CBO and our bylaw officer have been in discussions with the owners.
I guess we'll have an answer coming soon and or an improvement. Thank you. Secondly, late last week, it was mentioned to me about our election sign bylaw. One of the federal candidates removed all their signs from public property due to what they thought was maybe some ambiguity in the bylaw, and used 16th Street as a good example where consent from landowner, such as Cadillac Fairview, probably or maybe is not maintained or had. Are they allowed to put signs along stretches like that, or just where are they allowed to put signs? They had a sign that they were forced to remove last week that they thought was in a good spot. It was somewhat situated on or next to a park property and thought it was public, but were forced to remove it. So is there any concern there's some...
Ms. Bloomfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. We enforce the sign bylaw based on complaint like we do with all of our regulatory bylaws, and will not be actively canvassing for violations. In the sign bylaw, political posters are only permitted on a street in front of property owned by one of the following: City of Owen Sound, County of Grey, Province of Ontario, or Dominion of Canada, or on a street, which is also termed road allowance, in front of private property with permission of the private owner. There are some special provisions around Greenwood Cemetery, and To sort of speak to Councillor Gregg's question, setbacks in the sign bylaw for political posters are a minimum of 2 meters from the traveled portion of the road. And all of this information has been provided to all of the candidates through an email which provided the sign bylaw and the interpretation of that sign bylaw.
Thanks, Ms. Bloomfield. Third item to bring up here tonight is one that's, boy, it's in the spotlight right now because there's a lot of very important people in New York this week discussing the bind that the plan's in. We had a terrific turnout last Friday on the steps of City Hall from people in the community expressing their concern about climate change and where we're going forward. I guess I just want to, when they come back again, it's easy for us to not do anything or feel overwhelmed. But what are the actions that we need to take? Because to put this into perspective, our federal debt per person is $32,000. In 2017, our net operating deficit per person in Ontario was $271 a person. The average Hamiltonian is $40,000 in debt between municipal, provincial, and federal debt. So the challenge to us and the protesters and the advocates is that while we think we are a rich and prosperous nation, those numbers prove otherwise. That's just government debt. That's not private debt. Part of the pathway to slowing or stopping the accelerating harm to the planet is investing in or subsidizing the developing nations so they do not run all the buffalo off the cliff like we did getting to where we are now. The challenge, or what I'd like to see coming forward, is giving up other perks, and what ones are we prepared to do to make substantive change in the environment? Are we prepared to look at mental health funding, or less for roads and bridges maintenance, or moving to more plant-based diets, smaller class sizes? If people are expectant of the spending promises by all parties in this federal campaign, which are crazy, then we will never carve into the climate change issue because we are not willing to make the personal sacrifice needed to get there. I might just mention, I think she's 14 or 16, the Greta Thunberg, who spoke at the United Nations, I think today, and said, "You are stealing my generation's dreams and our future." And I would agree concurrently, but I'm hoping to see ideas come forward from people as to what initiatives that we are willing to do without to make a difference, because that part of the conversation has not been had yet.
Mr. Ritchie wants to respond. Certainly, from a municipal point of view, the environment has been one of the 4 pillars of our strategic plan for a number of years. And when you go back, we've been working on the Kinney Dam project for a gazillion years. I'm exaggerating, but we will be updating our strategic plan. We're probably going to be into the summer of 2020 before we get to it, when we've got all the other things going on, or maybe even later. But at that point, some of those action items that we had under the strategic plan, we've been able to tick off over the last number of years. So that's certainly going to be one section that we're going to take a good run at as we go forward, and we're going to be looking to get feedback from the community as we go forward on that, on things that we can do. I'm finding that a lot of people that are talking to me about this don't realize the number of things that we've done already. And I say we, it goes before I was on council. So long-term, the municipality has been more involved than people realize. But certainly we're going to need to be more involved, more conscious of it, and continue to move forward on a lot of those things. And the strategic plan's an important part of it, that we can get public input. And certainly if people want to come and make presentations to the city now, come to the operations committee, I think is the prime one that would, give us feedback. They can give us 2 quick things that we can do right now. We'd consider them, depending on price, depending on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think as a municipality, we've recognized the issue we'll continue to recognize the issue. Certainly the reports that came out earlier this summer on the deterioration of the climate in our country was shocking, and we're all aware of it. It's partly what do we do with it, but we will be seeking out certainly feedback going forward. Thanks. Councillor Kepke, you've got 2 items.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here to tell you about a hate crime talk that's taking place on Tuesday, October 22nd from 7 to 8:30 at the Harmony Centre. This is a public education opportunity and was arranged with Owen Sound Police Services, United Way, and Crime Stoppers of Grey Bruce, respecting hate crimes and extremist actions. This is a great opportunity to partnership with agencies and host the public information, given the recent incidents that have occurred in Owen Sound. This is to raise awareness and knowledge about the crimes.
Just looking for the date.
Oh, October 22nd, 7 to 8:30 at the Harmony Centre. HCEIT is a provincially funded multi-agency, which includes 15 police services, and they work closely with Ontario Provincial Police, Criminal Intelligence Service Ontario, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, and Canada Border Services Agency. Chief Ambrose, through his connections with the Waterloo Regional Police, was able to arrange for the provincial analyst to come and bring their team to Owen Sound and present this at no cost to the city. Police services will be receiving free training for their members and members of neighboring police services in the afternoon, and a free session in the evening will be held for our community. So again, that's a hate crime talk on Tuesday, October 22nd from 7 to 8:30 at the Harmony Centre. So that's the first item. Second item, Your Worship, I had the pleasure of attending on Saturday afternoon to Georgia Shores United Church. Council was invited to this performance. It's a role of a composer in community music. It was presented by Fiona Evison, and Fiona was working on her doctorate and her PhD in music, and her focus was community music. And she chose a theme of Shores of Georgian Bay, and it was extremely interesting where she took members of the audience who never played instruments, brought them up on stage, and had all kinds of percussion instruments for them to play, like wine glasses where you put your finger around the ring of the wine glass, rain poles, rocks that you tap together, chimes that you dangle. He had a cymbal where you run a violin string up the cymbal, and another one was a barrel that you shook and it made thunder sounds. And she made a terrific composition and music out of all these pieces that they had never played before, and had a score that they read and knew when they were to come in and do their thing. And it was conducted by Scott Sinclair, I believe his name is. Anyways, he had the audience just in awe of the sounds that this made. They also brought up people from the audience who never sang before, and she had composed a song that they had sung as a choir. So it was all about community music, and this community is so rich in its community getting together. One of the quotes that she had was, community music is creating relationships with people through music. And it was just so moving, this presentation that she had put on. So I was certainly thrilled to have attended it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I want to remind everyone about the Riverside Reunion this Saturday, September 28th, at the River Precinct area behind City Hall. The event starts at 4 p.m. with live music, food vendors, family activities, and a licensed area. The event is free, and it promises to be a great evening. Big thanks to Barry's Construction and Grey Bruce Property Rentals for sponsoring this event.
Good, thank you. Councillor Tamming.
Yeah, I just had a follow-up for the city manager. For about a month ago, we met as a city council with the police chief, and we expressed concerns about two things about the police budget. First of all, we did not excuse me, we did not seem to have a clear understanding as to the revenue and the profit and the cost related to the police dispatch service. And second, we really weren't clear on why the service could not implement any of the cost savings which our consultant seemed to recommend. We asked the chief to go to the police board and to speak to his people and to get back to us as to whether he'd be prepared to meet with our corporate services staff to get a better understanding as to the numbers. And I expressed some frustration because until you have the data, until you know numbers, you really don't know whether you're OPP, local, you really don't know. And so it was purely an investigative matter. I'm asking City Manager, have we had, through your worship, have we had a response yet a month later as to whether they're prepared to meet with our staff?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, I have not. The staff in question that I was assigned that duty won't be back until October 22nd, so that certainly buys all of us some time, but I have not heard back. I don't know if the police board members could speak to.
There hasn't been a police board meeting since. So I'm down to, I think it's down to a few matters. First of all, I want to touch on what Marion's just touched on. We've had another series of white supremacist stickers put up in our town, and I think everyone is strongly, just about everybody, obviously, in Owen Sound, very strongly do not approve of this, do not like this, do not, it's not acceptable to the great majority of Owen Sounders. The police are investigating. If you see these on telephone poles and on places around Owen Sound, please identify where and contact the police. They might be able to lift fingerprints. They can look for patterns. They can, they can investigate, and they will remove them. And that's important to allow the police to do the investigation and not try and remove them yourself. This isn't acceptable. I received a letter within the last week from the Simon Wiesenthal Foundation, or Friends of, in Toronto, offering to help. They were up here last year. We'll be back in contact with them. The meeting that has been put together that Councillor Koepke has referred to is to try and educate the people what to look for, what these things mean, etc. And it's important for the public to know, recognize, understand, and be able to do something when they do see those things. So our police are investigating, so it's important that they be informed. Going in no order, I guess, today was an honor to welcome Dr. Marilee Fullerton, who is the Minister of Long-Term Care for the province, to our city. She announced an allocation of almost 200 new long-term beds throughout Graham Bruce and redevelopment of 300 plus existing beds to modern design standards for across Graham Bruce. That, of course, included a reaffirmation for Southbridge here in Owen Sound, which included 91 new beds and redeveloping 69 existing beds. And we know from talking to Southbridge in the past that it's just approximately a job per bed in our community, so that's pretty important. It's clearly an industry that's not going to go away in the future, and this is great to have this announcement, and it's great to have the minister come to our community to make that announcement. Last week, I attended and volunteered at the Cabo Concord Elegance. I was able to present the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Award to Timeless Art, I think is what the name of the car was, which was pretty amazing. It's year 7. The Concours has now raised over $500,000 for hospitals, mostly Sunnybrook and Toronto and Owen Sound. Well, those are the two that are the hospitals, and it's great to attract so many tourists to the area for that car show. It's becoming bigger. Some of the people that own cars were flying into the Wyerton Airport, so Mayor Burley's very, very excited to come up from the States to hang out for the weekend. the Big Brothers, Big Sisters flag raising, they've changed their logo and their messaging. They continue to be a very strong part of our community and have for over 50 years. So they're on the community flagpole, and it was great to be involved with that. Popeye's Chicken opened on Friday night, 56 employees. I understand there's a letter, I'm going to ask Mr. Kafalis, I think there's a letter to the editor that they had done an investigation. I know weeks ago there was accusations that there had been cooking oil poured down the sewer. I understand that they've done a study that they could find no signs of any oil being in the sewers at all. We would have done our study with the city. Any comment that you can help me with?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through Your Worship, yes, initially we conducted a study or an investigation of the city storm sewer infrastructure, could find no evidence of any cooking oil or grease that made its way into our system. We did request that the property owner, property management team, in conjunction with the restaurant, look at the catch basins located in close proximity to the restaurant itself. They did hire a local contractor to pump those out, and he provided a letter, I guess a letter report, it was actually just a one-pager, that indicated they could find no evidence in either catch basin in close proximity of the restaurant that there was any presence of cooking oil and/or grease.
Good, thank you. Councillor Merton was there for the opening too. I got to tour the back, and their grease catchment thing looks like a giant water heater that they can automatically pump the grease right out of the vats every 2 or 3 days as needed into this holding tank that is then pumped directly into a truck. So it's not even handled by hand. It's quite a system. And as I said, they're expecting to have 56 employees in that business, and anytime we can attract a business to town that provides jobs like that and are involved in the community. Opening night, they were doing fundraising for Leeds Employment Service, another business, or not-for-profit really in our town, that helps train people that have difficulty or may have challenges, not easily be trained or be able to afford to go to their own educational opportunities to be able to become employed, and the Leeds system is pretty important for that, and it was great to see Popeye's Chicken support that and support the community with their grand opening. Saturday night was even more fun. The Attack are kicking off their 20th year, which is shocking, as the Attack, Owen Sound home-based team. Time goes by so quickly. We got some 20-year Attack cookies. I was able to drop the puck with Mayor Stu Taylor, who was so important for the team staying at the time. Then Councillor, but thereafter Mayor Rick Beanie was with us. Unfortunately, Mayor Lovell was not able to attend, and Mayor Haswell was there, and it was fun to be able to hang around with them and have a discussion about just various things, most of the history of hockey, and we know the team's important to the community and to the economy of the community. One of the things I got to mention, I was talking to one of those mayors, and we were talking about the 10th Street Bridge and how difficult it's going to be, and taking flack as staff, taking flack as elected officials, and the turmoil that it's going to cause, and it is going to cause turmoil. And this former mayor said, we've all known it had to be done for years, and you guys were the only ones that had the guts to do it. So we knew that it had to be done. We've made the decision. We've spent a lot of money in infrastructure in the last few years. It had to be done. A couple of years ago, we were looking just at paving, and at the rate we were going, it was going to be 99 years to replace the roads that had to be replaced already. Little by little, hopefully we're catching up to that. It needed to be done, and I can say with confidence that this council and the previous council have made decisions that had to be made, and we can stand by our decisions. We certainly stand by the advice that we got from our staff on these, and can stand by the communications plan that is there. To a certain extent, we need to let our staff do what they have to do because they get hired to do it. kind of going back to some of the comments earlier, we make decisions on policy and on budget. We don't get into the nitty-gritty, and there's a pendulum there. There's an edge there, and I don't know how big the balloon is of how much we should be involved and shouldn't be. But certainly, I have full confidence in our decision and full confidence in staff to carry it out over the next year and a half. And yeah, it might be a little bit late. You know, from City Hall, it's a little bit late, and that went away. You know, there's a lot of complaining for a few weeks, but it made no difference. We got into this building. It's a beautiful building. We came in on budget. We got the quality that we wanted, and those are the two things that are the three that we have to have. And I'm looking forward to the 10th Street Bridge being the same. And yes, there's going to be delays, and yes, there's going to be people on Facebook complaining, and we're going to take the hit, and I can live with taking the hit. I've got wide shoulders, and I'm quite happy to live with the decision that we've made. So I've just ranted a little bit more than I had attended to. One other neat thing, I was asked to go to the On Sound Seventh-day Adventist Church on Saturday, and they gave out awards of appreciation, and I think I was there representing the council and the city and so many volunteers in our city. Bruce Gray Children's Services, I still want to call it Children's Aid from years past, Second Stage Housing, Georgian Bluffs were there, O'Share. We're showing appreciation for all the little work that goes on and all the volunteer work that goes on, and we've talked about it before, and we try and recognize volunteers here, but our community just wouldn't be a community without the volunteers, whether it's coaching minor sports, whether it's people wearing blue vests at the hospital or people that are working at churches, and it was nice that we were recognized, and it's nice that they're going to recognize others. So those are my comments for additional business. Councillor Thomas, you'll have number 18.
Moved by myself that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
All in favor? That is carried. So we're now back in formal session, so motion to adopt.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gregg, that the action taken in Committee of the Whole in considering public meetings, deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business be confirmed by this council.
All in favor? That is carried. So number 20 is notices of motion. Councillor Merton, I think you've got one to read there.
I hereby give notice that I will move or cause to be moved a motion at the next regular council meeting to request staff of city prepare and communicate to council and public a variance tracking report relating to 10th Street Bridge replacement, including impact analysis incorporating but not limited to include nature of delay, who is responsible, time lost, financial allocation and responsibility, and the outcome relating to project impact.
Good, thank you. So bylaws.
Through your worship, the bylaws listed for approval on tonight's agenda include the confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to execute a facility use agreement with the Sydenham Fall Fair for use of Victoria Park, 2 bylaws to execute facade and structural improvement agreements, one for Sabritri's Global Cuisine and one for the Curry House, a bylaw to execute an easement agreement with Velati and Savithri, and a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw respecting rezoning for the API Hotel lands located at 1200 26th Avenue East.
Good, thank you, Councillor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gregg, that bylaws number 2019-158, 159, 160, 161, 162, and 163 be passed and enacted.
And all in favor? That is carried. So that completes our business for tonight. I've got 9:38 for time. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.